curtain rises, disclosing the ushers of the theatre still moving up and down the aisles. Cries of "Programme, programme" are heard. There is a bustle of brilliant conversation, illuminated with flashes of opera glasses and the rattle of expensive jewellery. Then suddenly, almost unexpectedly, in fact, just as if done, as it were, by machinery, the lights all over the theatre, except on the stage, are extinguished. Absolute silence falls. Here and there is heard the crackle of a shirt front, but there is no other sound. In this expectant hush, a man in a check tweed suit walks on the stage. Only one man, one single man. Because if he had been accompanied by a chorus, that would have been a burlesque. If 4 citizens in togas had been with him, that would have been Shakespeare. If 2 Russian soldiers had walked after him, that would have been melodrama. But this is none of these. This is a problem play. So he steps in alone, all alone, and with that absolute finish of step, that ability to walk as if, how can one express it? As if he were walking, that betrays the finished actor. He has, in fact, barely had time to lay down his silk hat when he is completely betrayed. You can see that he is a finished actor, finished about 15 years ago. He lays the hat, hollow side up, on the silk hat table on the stage right center, bearing north, northeast, a half a point west from the red mica fire on the stage, which warms the theatre. All this is done very, very quietly, very impressively. No one in the theatre has ever seen a man lay a silk hat on a table before, and so there is a breathless hush. Then he takes off his gloves, one by one, not 2 or 3 at a time, and lays them in his hat. The expectancy is almost painful. If he had thrown his gloves into the mica fire, it would have been a relief, but he doesn't. The man on the stage picks up a pile of letters from the letter department of the hat table. There are a great many of these letters because all his correspondence, as well as his private letters, are sent here by the General Post Office. Getting his letters in this way at night, he is able to read them like lightning. Some of them he merely holds upside down for a fraction of a second. Then, at last, he speaks. It has become absolutely necessary, or he wouldn't do it.
So, Sao Paulo prison again. Rio Tinto down again. More be anxious. Better sell for £500,000 sterling.
Did you hear that? £500,000 sterling, and he takes it just as quietly as that. And it isn't really in the play either. Sao Paulo and Rio Tinto just come in to let you know the sort of man you're dealing with.
Lady Garthorne, dinner Thursday the 9th. Lunch with the ambassador Friday the 10th.
And mind you, even this is just patter. The ambassador doesn't come into the play either. He and Lady Gathorne are just put in to let the people in the cheaper seats know the kind of thing they're up against. Then the man steps across the stage and presses a button. A bell rings. Even before it has finished ringing, nay, just before it begins to ring, a valet enters.
Did you ring, Sir John?
You can tell he is a valet because he is dressed in the usual home dress stage of a stage valet. There is a rustle of programs all over the house. You can hear a buzz of voices say, "He's Sir John Trevor." They're all onto him. When the valet says,
"Did you ring, Sir John?"
he ought to answer, "No, I merely knocked the bell over to see how it would sound." But he misses it and doesn't say it.
Has her ladyship come home?
Yes, Sir John.
Has anyone else been here?
Mr. Harding, Sir John.
Anyone else?
No. Sir John.
Very good.
The valet bows and goes out, and everybody in the theatre, or at least everybody in the seats worth over $1, knows that there's something strange in the relations of Lady Cicely, Trevor, and Mr. Harding. You notice, Mr. Harding was there, and no one else was there. That's enough in a problem play. The double door at the back of the stage, used only by the principal characters, is opened, and Lady Cicely Trevor enters. She is young and very beautiful, and wears a droopy hat and long, slinky clothes, which she drags across the stage. She throws down her feather hat and her crepe de boa on the boa stand. Later on, the valet comes in and gathers them up. He is always gathering up things like this on the stage. Hats and boas and walking sticks thrown away by the actors, but nobody notices him. They are his perquisites. Sir John says to Lady Cicely,
Shall I ring for tea?
and Lady Cicely says,
Thanks, no.
in a weary tone. This shows that they are the kind of people who can have tea at any time. All through a problem play, it is understood that any of the characters may ring for tea and get it. Tea in a problem play is the same as whiskey in a melodrama. Then there ensues a dialogue to this effect. Sir John asks Lady Cicely if she has been out. He might almost have guessed it from her coming in a hat and cloak, but Sir John is an English baronet. Lady Cicely says,
Yes, the usual round.
and distributes a few details about duchesses and princesses for the general good of the audience.
Are you going out?
Yes, immediately.
To the house, I suppose.
This is very impressive. It doesn't mean, as you might think, the workhouse or the White House or the station house or the Bon Marché. It is the name given by people of Lady Cicely's class to the House of Commons.
Yes, I am extremely sorry. I had hoped I might ask to go with you to the opera. I fear it is impossible. The ministers have brought down the papers, the Kafunistan business. The House will probably divide into subcommittees. Oh, Gatherson will ask a question. Oh, that must be stopped at all cost. The fate of the party hangs on it.
Sir John has risen. His manner has changed. His look is altered. You can see him alter it. It is now that of a statesman. The technical details given above have gone to his head. He can't stop. He goes on.
They will force a closure on the second reading, go into committee, redivide, subdivide, and force us to bring down the estimates.
While Sir John speaks, Lady Cicely's manner has been that of utter weariness. She has picked up the London Times and thrown it aside. Taken up a copy of Punch and let it fall with a thud to the floor. Looked idly at a piece of music and decided, evidently, not to sing it. Sir John runs out of technical terms and stops. The dialogue has clearly brought out the following points. Sir John is in the House of Commons. Lady Cicely is not. Sir John is 25 years older than Lady Cicely. He doesn't see, isn't he a fool when everybody in the gallery can see it, that his parliamentary work is meaningless to her, that her life is insufficient. That's it. Lady Cicely is being starved. All that she has is money, position, clothes, and jewelry. These things starve any woman. They cramp her. That's what makes problem plays.
Are you taking Mr. Harding with you?
Why?
Nothing. I thought I might ask him to take me to the opera. Puffy is to sing.
Oh, do, pray do. Take Harding with you by all means. Poor boy, do take him with you. You know, Cicely, I've been rather troubled lately by Harding. There's something the matter with the boy. something wrong.
Yes?
He seems abstracted, moody. I think, in fact, I think the boy is in love.
Yes?
Oh, take the word of an old man, my dear. There's a woman in it. We old parliamentary hands are very shrewd, you know, even in these things. Someone's playing the devil with Jack, with Harding.
Sir John cannot see the change in Lady Cicely's face. He is not meant to see it, but even the little girls in the 10th row of the gallery are wise.
Talk to him. Get it out of him. You women can do these things. Find out what the trouble is and let me know. I must help him. I promised his mother when he came back to England, that I would.
You knew Mr. Harding's mother very well?
Very well.
That was long ago, wasn't it?
Long ago.
Was she married then?
No, not then.
Here in London?
Yes, in London. I was only a barrister then, with my way to make, and she, famous beauty.
Sir John is speaking with a forced levity that doesn't deceive even the ushers.
She married Harding of the Guards. They went to India, and there he spent her fortune and broke her heart.
Have you seen her since?
No, never.
She has never written you?
Only once. When she sent him home, she wrote to me for help. That's why I took him on as my secretary.
And that was why Mr. Harding came to us in Italy 2 years ago, just after our marriage.
Yes, that is why.
Does Mr. Harding know
What?
that you knew his mother?
I have never spoken to him about his mother's early life.
The stage clock on the mantelpiece begins to strike. Sir John lets it strike up to 4 or 5 and then says,
8 o'clock. I shall be late. I will miss the sitting. Goodbye.
He moves over to Lady Cicely and kisses her. There is softness in his manner. Such softness that he forgets the bundle of parliamentary papers that he had laid down. Everybody in the theatre can see that he has forgotten them. They were right there under his very eye. Sir John goes out. Lady Cicely stands looking fixedly at the fire. She says out loud to herself,
How his voice changed. 25 years ago. So long as that. I wonder if Jack knows.
Mr. Harding is downstairs, milady.
Show him up, Ransom.
A moment later, Mr. Harding enters. He is a narrow young man in a frock coat. His face is weak. It has to be. Mr. Harding is meant to typify weakness.
My darling.
She says, just like that, in capital letters. You can feel the thrill of it run through the orchestra chairs. All the audience look at Mr. Harding, some with opera glasses, others with eyeglasses on sticks. They can see that he is just the sort of ineffectual young man that a starved woman in a problem play goes mad over. Lady Cicely repeats, my darling, several times. Mr. Harding says, hush, and tries to disengage himself. She won't let him. He offers to ring for tea. She won't have any.
Oh, Jack, I can't go on any longer. When you first loved me, I thought I could. But I can't. It throttles me here. This house, this life, everything. Do you remember, Jack, when you first came in Italy? At Amalfi, when we sat on the piazza of the Palazzo?
I do.
Oh, and that day at Fiesole among the orange trees, and Pisa, and the Capello de Teresa, oh, and the Mona Lisa. Oh, Jack, take me away. Take me away from here. Take me to the Riviera, where we can stand together with my head on your shoulder, just as we did in the Duomo at Milano, or the Piaggia at Verona. Take me to Corfu, to the Campo Santo, to Civita Vecchia, to Paranoia, anywhere.
My dearest, I will.
Any man in the audience would do as much. They'd take her to Honolulu. While she is speaking, Sir John's voice had been heard off the stage.
No, thank you, Ransom. I'll get them myself. I know just where I left them.
Sir John enters hurriedly, advances and picks up his papers on the table, turns and stands. He sees his wife's attitude and hears her say,
Riviera, Amalfi, Orangieri, Contadini, and the Capello Santo.
I will.
"It is enough." He drops his parliamentary papers. They fall against the fire irons with a crash. These in falling upset a small table with one leg. The ball of wool that is on it falls to the floor. The noise of this disturbs the lovers. They turn. All three look at one another. For a moment it appears like they might ring for tea. Then they stand petrified.
You!
Gasps Lady Cicely. She does this awfully well. Everybody says afterwards that it was just splendid when she said,
You!
Sir John stands gazing in horror.
Him? My God! He?
Mr. Harding says nothing. He looks very weak. Lady Cicely unpetrifies first. She breaks out, speaking through her nostrils.
Yes, I love him. I love him. I am not ashamed of it. What right have you to deny me? You gave me nothing. You made me a chattel, a thing.
You can feel the rustle of indignation through the house at this. To make a woman a thing is the crowning horror of a problem play.
You smothered me here. You throttled me. I couldn't breathe. You starved me. And now I'm going. Do you hear me? Going away. To life, to love, behind the beyond.
She gathers up Mr. Harding, practically, and carries him passionately away. He looks back weakly as he goes. Sir John has sunk down into a chair. His face is set. The valet enters, carrying a telegram on a tray.
Jack! My God! Jack!
A telegram, Sir John.
What?
Telegram, sir. A cablegram.
He is dead. My duty has ended. I am coming home. Margaret Harding. Margaret coming home. It only needed that. My God.
As he says it, the curtain falls. The lights flick up. There is a great burst of applause. The curtain rises. Lady Cicely and Mr. Harding and Sir John all come out and bow charmingly. There is no trace of worry on their faces, and they hold one another's hands. Then the curtain falls, and the orchestra breaks out into a winter garden waltz. The boxes buzz with discussion. Some of the people think that Lady Cicely is right in claiming the right to realize herself. Others think that before realizing herself, she should have developed herself. Others ask indignantly how she could know herself if her husband refused to let her be herself. But everybody feels that the subject is a delicious one. Those of the people who have seen the play before very kindly explain how it ends, so as to help the rest to enjoy it. But the more serious-minded of the men have risen, very gently, and are sneaking up the aisles. Their expression is stamped with deep thought, as if pondering over the play. But their step is that of leopards on the march, and no one is deceived as to their purpose. The music continues. The discussion goes on. The leopards come stealing back. The orchestra boils over in a cadence and stops. The theatre is darkened again. The footlights come on with a flash. The curtain silently lifts, and it is Act 2, 6 months later. The programs rustle. The people look to see where it is, and they find that it is an apartment in Paris. Notice this place that is used in every problem play is just called an apartment. It is not called Mr. Harding's apartment or an apartment for which Mr. Harding pays the rent. Not a bit. It is just an apartment. Even if it were a apartment, that would make it easier, but an apartment. The very words send a delicious shiver of uncomfortableness through the audience. When the curtain rises, it discloses a French maid moving about the stage in $4 silk stockings. She is setting things on a small table, evidently for supper. She explains this in French as she does it, so as to make it clearer.
Bon, la serviette de monsieur, bon. La serviette de madame, bien. Du champagne, bon. La gousse au champignon, bien bon.
This is all the French she knows, poor little thing. But langouste or champignon beats the audience, so she's all right. Anyway, this supper scene has to come in. It is symbolical. You can't really show Almafi and the Fiesole and the orange trees, so this sort of scene takes their place. As the maid moves about, there is a loud knock on the door of the apartment. A man in official clothing sticks his head in. He is clearly a postal special messenger because he is all in postal attire with a postal glazed hat.
Monsieur Harding?
Oui,
Bon. Une lettre.
merci, monsieur.
He goes out. The audience feel a thrill of pride at having learned French and being able to follow the intense realism of the dialogue. Just as the maid lays the letter on the table, the door opens and there enter Mr. Harding and Lady Cicely. Yes, them. Both of them. The audience catches it like a flash. They live here. Lady Cicely throws aside her cloak. There is great gaiety in her manner. Her face is paler. There is a bright spot in each cheek. Her eyes are very bright. There follows the well-known supper scene. Lady Cicely is very gay. She pours champagne into Mr. Harding's glass. They both drink from it. She asks him if he is a happy boy now. He says he is. She runs her fingers through his hair. He kisses her on the bare shoulder. This is also symbolic. Lady Cicely rattles on about Amalfi and Fiesole. She asks Mr. Harding if he remembers that night in the olive trees at Santa Clara, with just one thrush singing in the night sky. He says he does. He remembers the very thrush. You can see from the talk that they have been all over Baedeker's Guide to the Adriatic. At times, Lady Cicely's animation breaks. She falls into a fit of coughing and presses her hand to her side. Mr. Harding looks at her apprehensively.
Oh, Jack, it is nothing, silly boy. It will be gone in a moment. It is only because I am so happy. Jack, I can't stand it any longer. It is choking me.
My darling, what is it?
This apartment, these pictures, the French maid, all of it. It is choking me. Oh, the great solemn hills of the fjords.
Then suddenly Mr. Harding sees the letter in its light blue envelope lying on the supper table. It has been lying right beside him for 10 minutes. Everybody in the theatre could see it and was getting uncomfortable about it. He clutches it and tears it open. There is a hunted look in his face as he reads.
What is it?
My mother! Good God, she is coming! She is at the Bristol and is coming here! What can I do? What can I do?
Does she know?
Nothing.
How did she find you?
I don't know. I can't imagine. I knew that when I saw in the papers that my father was dead, that she would come home. But I kept back the address. I told the solicitors, curse them, to keep it a secret. Oh, what can I do?
Jack, there is only one thing to do. Tell her.
Tell her?
Yes, tell her about our love. I am not ashamed. Let her judge me.
I tell you, I can't. Oh, she wouldn't understand.
The letter is fluttering in his hand. His face is contemptible. He does it splendidly.
Hotel Bristol, Paris. My darling boy, I have found you at last. Why have you sought to avoid me? God grant there is nothing wrong. He is dead. The man I taught you to call your father. I can tell you all now. I am coming to you this instant. Margaret Harding. What does it mean, Jack? Tell me, what does it mean?
God, Cecily, don't speak like that.
But these lines about your father.
I don't know. Oh, I don't know what it means. I don't care. I hated him, the brute. I'm glad he's dead. Well, I don't care for that, but she's coming here now, and I can't face it.
Jack, did Sir John Trevor ever talk to you about your father?
No, he never mentioned him.
But did he know him?
Well, I think so, yes, long ago. But they were enemies. Sir Trevor challenged him to a duel over some woman, and he wouldn't fight, the cur.
I understand now. Listen, there is time yet. You must go to the hotel. Keep your mother from coming here. Tell her nothing, you understand? Don't let her come here, anything, but not that. Ernestine, a taxi at once. Oh, Ernestine, put my things, anything, into a valise.
Madame is going away?
Yes, at once.
Madame will not first eat?
No.
Madame will not first rest?
The slow comprehension of these French maids is something exasperating.
Madame will not await Monsieur? Madame will not eat, nor drink? No? Madame will not sleep?
No, Ernestine, please bring me what I want. Summon a fiacre. I shall be ready in a moment.
Lady Cicely passes through a side door into an inner room. She is scarcely gone when Mrs. Harding appears. She is a woman about 45, still very beautiful. She is dressed in deep black. The play is now moving very fast. You have to sit tight to follow it all. She speaks to Ernestine.
Is this Mr. Harding's apartment?
Yes, Madame.
Is he here?
No, Madame. He has gone this moment in a taxi to the Hotel Bristol, I hear him say.
Is anyone here?
No, Madame. There were here, but Milady has gone away as well.
This is a lie, but of course the maid is a French maid.
Then it is true. There is someone.
She is just saying this when the bell rings, the door opens, and there enters Sir John Trevor.
You,
I am too late.
after all these years, it is a long time. You have not changed. I have thought of you so often through these bitter years. It sustained me even at the worst. And I knew, John, that it was for my sake you did not marry.
Then, as she goes on talking, the audience realize with a thrill that Mrs. Harding does not know that Sir John was married 2 years ago, that she has come home, as she thought, to the man who loved her. And more than that, they get another thrill when they realize Lady Cicely is learning it too. She has pushed the door half open and is standing there unseen, listening. She wears a hat and cloak. In her hand, she has a folded letter. Her eyes are wide. Mrs. Harding continues.
And now, John, I want your help. Only you can help me. You are so strong. My Jack, I must save him. Oh, John, this place, his being here like this, it seems a judgment on us.
The audience are getting it fast now. And when Mrs. Harding speaks of
Our awful moment of folly, the retribution of our own sin.
they grasp it and shiver with the luxury of it. After that, when Mrs. Harding says,
Our wretched boy, we must save him.
they all know why she says our. She goes on more calmly.
I realized, I knew, he is not alone here.
He is not alone.
But this woman, can you not deal with her? Persuade her, beg her for my sake, bribe her to leave my boy.
There is no bribe needed. I am going. If I have wronged him and you, it shall be atoned. I have heard and know now. I cannot ask for pity, but when I am gone, when it is over, I want you to give him this letter. And I want you both you two, to be as if I had never lived.
He lays the letter down. Then, without a sign, Lady Cicely leaves. There is a great stillness in the house. Mrs. Harding has watched Lady Cicely and Sir John in amazement. Sir John has sunk into a chair.
John, for God's sake, this woman, speak. There is something awful I must know.
Yes, you must know. It is fate, Margaret. You do not know all. 2 years ago, I married. But this woman, she was my wife.
Cecily! Cecily! Am I too late? And you? Where is she? What is happening? I must know.
Sir John, as if following a mechanical impulse, indicates the letter. He tears it open and reads.
Dearest, I am going away to die. It cannot be long now. The doctor told me today. That was why I couldn't speak or explain it to you and was so strange at supper. But I'm glad now. Goodbye. What have you done? Why have you driven her away? What right did you have to her, you devil? I loved her. She was mine.
Jack, you mustn't strike. Can't you understand? Don't you know what it is?
What do you mean? Stand back, I say.
Jack, he is your father.
My God.
And then the curtain falls. and there's a burst of applause. And, in accordance with all the best traditions of the stage, 1 moment later, Lady Cicely and Mr. Harding and Sir John and Mrs. Harding are all bowing and smiling like anything. And even the little French maid sneaks on in a corner of the stage and simpers.
Then the orchestra plays and the leopards sneak out, and the people in the boxes are all talking gaily to show they're not the least affected. And everybody is wondering how it will come out, or rather, how it can possibly come out at all, because some of them explain that it is all wrong. And just as they are making it clear that there shouldn't be any third act, the curtain goes up and it's Act 3, 3 months later. The curtain rises on a drawing room in Mrs. Harding's house in London. Mrs. Harding is sitting at a table. She is sorting out parcels. There is a great air of quiet about the scene. The third act of a problem play always has to be very quiet. It is like a punctured football with the wind going out of it. The play has to just poof itself out noiselessly. For instance, this is the way it is done. Does Mrs. Harding start to talk about Lady Cicely and Jack and Paris? Not a bit. She is simply looking over the parcels and writing names and talking to herself so that the audience can get the names.
For the orphans' home, poor little things. For the Foundling Protection Society. For the Lost Infants Preservation League. Poor, poor children.
Now, what is this all about? What has this to do with the play? Why, don't you see that it is the symbol of philanthropy, of gentleness, of melancholy sadness? The storm is over, and there is nothing in Mrs. Harding's heart but pity. Don't you see that she is dressed in deeper black than ever? And do you notice that look on her face? That third act air, that resignation. Don't you see that the play is really all over? They're just letting the wind out of it.
Sir John Trevor.
My dear, dear friend.
She says in rich, sad tones. Sir John is all in black. He is much aged, but very firm and very quiet. You can feel that he's been spending the morning with the Committee of Homeless Newsboys League or among the Directorate of the Lost Waves Encouragement Association. In fact, he begins to talk of these things at once. The people who are not used to third acts are wondering what it is all about. The real players goers know that this is atmosphere. Then presently...
Tea, shall I ring?
Pray do.
The bell is rung and the tea, which has been made for 3 acts, is brought in by the maid. Sir John seats himself with great weariness. The full melancholy of the third act is upon him. The tea is poured, they drink it, and it begins to go to their heads. The atmosphere clears off just a little.
You have news, I know. You have seen him?
I have seen him.
And he is gone?
Yes, he has sailed. He went on board last night, only a few hours after my return to London. I saw him off. Poor Jack. Oh, Gaveston has been most kind. They will take him into the embassy at Lima. There, please God, he can begin his life again. The Peruvian ambassador has promised to do all in his power.
Sir John sighs deeply and is silent. This to let the fact soak into the audience that Jack has gone to Peru. Any reasonable person would have known it. Where else could he go to?
He will do well in Peru,
says Mrs. Harding. She is imitating a woman being very brave.
Yes, I pray so.
There is silence again. In fact, the whole third act is diluted with 30% of silence. Presently, Mrs. Harding speaks again in a low tone.
You have other news, I know.
Yes, I have news.
Of her?
Yes. I have been to Switzerland. There I met the curé, a good man. He told me all there is to tell. I found him at the hospice, busy with his oeuvre de bienfaisance. He led me to her grave.
Lady Cicely dead! Everybody in the theatre gasps, dead! But what an unfair way to kill her! To face an open death on the stage in fair hand-to-hand acting is one thing, but this new system of dragging off the characters to Switzerland between the acts and then returning and saying they are dead is quite another.
And you will take up your work here again?
No, I am going away.
Going?
Yes, far away. I am going to Kafunistan.
To Kafunistan?
Yes, Kafunistan. There is work for me to do there. And you. You will settle here in London?
No, I am going away.
Going away?
Yes, back to Balawala. I want to be alone. I want to forget. I want to think. I want to try to realize.
You are going alone?
Yes, quite alone. But I shall not be alone when I get there. The Maharani will welcome me with open arms, and my life will be useful when I am there. The women need me. I shall teach them to read, to sew, to sing.
Mrs. Harding, Margaret, you must not do this. You have sacrificed your life enough. You have the right to live.
There is emotion in Sir John's tone. It is very rough on him to find his plan of going to Kafunistan has been outdone by Mrs. Harding's going to Balawala. She shakes her head.
No, no, my life is of no account now. But you, John, you are needed here. The country needs you. Men look to you to lead them.
Mrs. Harding would particularize if she could, but she can't just for the minute remember what it is Sir John can lead them to.
No, I am going to Kafunistan. There is a man's work to be done there.
This dialogue goes on for some time. Mrs. Harding keeps shaking her head and saying that Sir John must not go to Kafunistan, and Sir John says that she must not go to Balawala. He protests that he wants to work, and she claims that she wants to try to think clearly. But it is all a bluff. They are not going, neither of them, and everybody knows it.
You will think of me sometimes.
I will, yes.
I'm glad of that.
Yes, I shall think of you always, out there in the desert, or at night alone among the silent hills with only the stars overhead. I shall think of you. Your face will guide me. And you will think of me sometime in Balawala?
Yes, always. All day when I'm with the Maharani and her women. And at night, the great silent Indian night when all the palace is asleep and there is nothing heard but the sound of the jungles, the cry of the hyena, and the bray of the laughing jackass. I shall seem to hear your voice. I have heard it so for 25 years.
Margaret!
John!
I cannot let you go. You must stay here with me, next my heart. I need your help, your love, here, inside the beyond.
And as he speaks and takes her in his arms, the curtain sinks upon them, rises, falls, rises, then falls again, asbestos and all, and the play is over. The stage working lights come up on the minor cast members clearing the set. There are general crowd sounds. The lights are on. The audience rises in a body and puts on its wraps. All over the theatre, you can hear words like perfectly rotten, utterly untrue, and so on. The general judgment seems to be that the play is perfectly rotten, but very strong. They are saying this as they surge out in great waves of furs and silks, with black crush hats floating on billows of white wraps, among the foam of gossamer scarves. Through it all is the squawk of the motor horn, the call of the taxi numbers, and the inrush of the fresh night air. But just inside the theatre, in the office, is a man in a circus waistcoat adding up dollars with a blue pencil. And he knows that the play is all right.